Hi, I'm Andrew Lowe. I'm from IBM. I'm currently the lead architect for IBM Public Cloud's observability solutions. This includes the integration with Sysdig, our partner, delivering the IBM Cloud Monitoring solution. Eric.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. This is Eric Carter. I am the Director of Product Marketing here at Sysdig, and part of what I do is work with partners like IBM to talk about the solutions that we've put together. And I think as we get started, let's do a little stage setting in terms of what's going on in the industry and kind of why IBM and Sysdig have come together in the first place. Let's just look at this kind of cloud native application world that we now find ourselves in. Here we're calling it the new approach, but actually companies have been doing it for a number of years, trying to put together, cloud services, but running those with things like a Kubernetes platform and pulling together, various pieces into more of a microservices approach to their applications. And why? Right? A lot of the companies that we talk to, they're doing this. It really is about getting applications delivered faster. So it's about the innovation speed, right? And clearly in this same realm, you can get some better efficiencies and automation, like auto scaling, find yourself having a much more resilient infrastructure based on these technologies. But of course, Andrew, right, with every good thing comes some challenges. And one of the things that we think about in terms of what are cloud and microservices and Kubernetes environments like? Well, they're dynamic, they're fluid. They can be scaling up and scaling down. And the key question you have to ask yourself is, do we as a team or as a company have the right level of visibility in order to be able to operate, understand how are things performing, be able to understand, are things secure? Is there activity going on that we need to know about? So things shift a little bit when we're thinking about containers. How do you see inside that container? So a lot of times the existing tools that we knew and love in more of our traditional environments just don't quite work in the cloud environment. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is in a few moments. And then last but not least, containers, we talk a lot about them being ephemeral, meaning they start and stop. And when they stop, they're basically gone. And you might not have the information you need to dig in if something bad happened, right? So the concept of being able to do things like forensics. So you have to ask yourself, if something bad does happen, do I have what I need to be effective in terms of response? And ultimately, this is what brought IBM and Sysdig together to build solutions for these challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. IBM Cloud was, definitely headed down that path of being very container-centric, right? Our Kubernetes offering, a managed container system, it fits really well with what we want to, how we want to build the cloud, as well as what our customers are trying to do. We went as far with Sysdig to partner to deliver the IBM Cloud Monitoring system. So when you come to IBM Cloud, the monitoring solution that is the IBM Cloud one is built on top of Sysdig technology. Paired with that IBM Cloud Monitoring Sysdig technology, you can also leverage Sysdig Secure, using the same data flow. So the really powerful thing here is the fact that you have one agent you install, you start with monitoring, and then when you want to start thinking about, now I got to pay more attention to my security, I want to hit a higher compliance level or whatever, you mix in the secure capability, and suddenly same data stream, no change to your production environment, but now you can do a lot more stuff. It's been awesome working with Sysdig as a partner. They've really enhanced what we're doing in IBM. We've done a lot of customization of the Sysdig platform to be in IBM Cloud, integration with our IAM system for authorization, access control. And we've seen a lot of great innovation from Sysdig as they evolve their platform to meet what I consider cloud scale challenges. Being the monitoring system behind a global cloud is a big challenge. There's a lot of data flowing, and together we've learned a lot of great lessons, and we have a bright future ahead. Eric.
I'm going to agree with that, Andrew. I think we've made each other better in architecting solutions and figuring out how do we do the right things that fit with those cloud constructs, right? Now, the audience may not be fully familiar with Sysdig. I'm just going to take a couple slides here and why Sysdig, why did we make sense, right? So first of all, we are effectively a startup, but definitely focused on building effective software that helps detect things like performance, health, and so on. And we've been partnering with IBM, with our customers, to help make that this sort of cloud journey, as people start to bite off a little bit more and move more and more to the cloud, to make that something that they can be confident in. I mean, our mission is essentially to make every cloud deployment secure and reliable. So we've been growing, thanks not in small part to the partnership with IBM. And if you look at our heritage, we like to show this slide because many of you in the industry have in your careers used Wireshark, right? Now, Loris Degiani is our founder, and he was one of the co-creators of Wireshark. Now, we aren't Wireshark at Sysdig, but it's funny, you'll see some of the similar aspects in what we're doing around our solutions. And we've built a couple of open source projects that are really about this container and cloud world and focus there. Sysdig open source, many of you have used that as kind of a troubleshooting solution in and around Linux systems. And then Falco. Falco is really about that threat detection. And it's something that we've then donated to the CNCF, so the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it's sort of living on there thanks to the community with lots of contributors and so on. And so when we start talking about the security side, it'll reveal a little bit more about really what Falco does. But we believe in the open source ethos. We have some really good technologists that I think have helped us focus in on this space, which I think was attractive to the team at IBM.
Well, absolutely. And IBM's a huge believer in the CNCF and generally any kind of open standard we can embrace. We're really trying to build our cloud as a cloud built on open standards, right? We want interoperability. We want to be able to host the best of the best and intermix all those services together in one cloud. Our customers want that freedom of choice. They don't want to be locked into I had to pick this thing, so it's the only way.
Yeah.
We look at IBM Cloud Monitoring, and we look at just sort of the capabilities here. There's we've been pushing down that, more Prometheus compatibility, and we're seeing that coming to Sysdig, and Sysdig's following the industry, I think, as well with Prometheus. So if you started with Prometheus, there's a very natural transition into making use of Sysdig and back and forth. The core of what we're doing with cloud monitoring is that, watch the health and performance of your applications, of your containers, understanding what your containers are doing. So many teams have developed, their small piece of application built on top of a huge stack of open source code, and they don't necessarily understand the interactions of those pieces. Sysdig, they're a nice agent you install on the node, and it gathers all this data, built-in dashboards that come out of Sysdig are recommended based on the data seen in the system from you. It's a really nice combination that helps you very quickly get deep into what's going on. So you can very quickly go from I got a pile of data that I didn't have to do a lot to collect. Suddenly, the dashboards are being recommended to you. You can customize those dashboards. You can start building alerts. Alerts are recommended to you. If you have advanced needs, some of our customers are extremely, end-to-end. They have a legacy system they're trying to transition from. They've built stuff that reaches in via the API and various webhooks in order to integrate with their existing backend systems or to augment what they're doing already. There's some really awesome stuff here. So you can go even further with Sysdig by enabling some of the advanced features that allow you to capture data out of a system. And this ties into the secure aspect as well, where you can go figure out what happened at a really deep level inside of those containers without having to take it apart. In a development environment, you can actually look at a production system and do a lot of diagnosis. Eric.
Absolutely, without trying to pour through a bunch of disparate information, right? Now, one of the things I wanted to double back on, because I introduced early on, like the challenge of getting visibility into containers, is just, to explain a little bit further how we do that, right? Because as Andrew mentioned, container visibility can be a little bit tricky, right? And so here's how we do that. There's an agent that runs and spins up on a Kubernetes node. You can have that done automatically. And what we're looking at is this low-level system call activity, right? And like we like to say, system calls never lie. I mean, you really can derive a lot of truths from what's happening, like container 1 speaking to container 3, or even what's happening in that container without putting anything into the container, because it's kind of a cardinal sin to start bloating your containers with a bunch of agents and things like that. And so this visibility from the container perspective, you can filter, and then we enrich that with cloud and Kubernetes context. What does that mean? means this container is running in this particular cluster, this namespace, this deployment, this pod, and you can really look at it from that perspective. Without that, sometimes it can be very challenging. Yeah, there's an issue, and it's with this container, but my goodness, where is it running? And so context becomes key. And then when we start talking about things like security, there are some actions and enforcement that can be done in a similar fashion. So the visibility approach here, either working with something like the eBPF that's a part of Linux or kernel module and system calls becomes very important, and an easy, lightweight way to have this visibility. Now, it doesn't stop there. What you'll find is that there are lots of important data sources that are in your environments. Prometheus was mentioned on one of the last slides. Again, part of our open source ethos, right? There's a lot of good information there that we can collect: Kubernetes audit events, cloud activity, configuration logs, image scan data. So there's a lot of things that you want to be looking at as really key data sources to helping you understand what's happening in your environment. And again, pair that with context to do what? To just get faster at knowing what's happening, solving problems, securing your environment, and so on. And that's ultimately the goal of the solutions we're talking about today. And one of those sets of data based on Prometheus, and Andrew, I think, is here with IBM Cloud Platform Metrics. I'll turn it over to you to explain what this is.
Awesome. So when you're building out a cloud solution, if you want to sort of embrace that cloud native development mode, you should never run anything you can just use somebody else's, right? So, why would you ever run a database if you can just use a hosted database? You don't have to worry about all the scaling problems or reliability, data backups. It's just set some configuration and forget it. I know even in the delivery of the Sysdig platform, we make use of some hosted databases because, hey, like if I don't have to ops my own database, why would I bother, right? Like use somebody else's, right? And as long as you've got that cloud scale and reliability, you're good. The problem is that, if I have an agent, I have a piece of code I want to install somewhere to gather the metric data and figure out what those containers are doing. Well, if you're paying somebody to host a database for you, they're probably not going to let you install an agent. It's a little rare. So now you have a SaaS solution. You're like, hey, I'm just using this database. How do I find out what it's doing? So this is where platform metrics come into play. IBM Cloud, because we IBM are also implementing a lot of the services, we have the power to have, we have the metrics in the hands of the IBM teams that are operating those databases and the various security services, et cetera, that you're making use of. Well, those teams, what we've done is we've built a pathway between those IBM teams and the IBM Cloud Monitoring System to ferry the metric data from those IBM Cloud services into the customer's metrics, right? So this is really cool. It means that, if you're using cloud functions, event streams, code engine, object storage, there's a huge list here, right? Container registry, CloudInt, the key protect pieces, a lot of the databases. You're getting metrics out of all of those SaaS services you're making use of that feed directly into the same Sysdig instance that you're using to manage your metrics for the Kubernetes cluster you're running. What this means is that if you wanted to have a hands-on management or control of the money you're spending on a particular SaaS service, or you wanted to monitor that service to make sure that your application is behaving correctly, you're not seeing a high rate of database calls, all the data is available to you in the same monitoring platform that you're making use of for your Kubernetes application side by side. It's very powerful, and it's something that is unique in the sense that this is something that IBM Cloud and Sysdig are delivering together, because you have to have the data source and the way to put the data in the system. It's a little bit magic, but it's an awesome combination.
Absolutely, this is a huge advantage on IBM Cloud. We basically don't have this level of cloud service integration with any cloud. It's just like really powerful, and again, one of those areas that I think we came up with together that makes it all very helpful for customers, including those pre-built dashboards, right? Who better than the service owner to kind of give you here are the things to watch, right? Yeah. And that you want to keep track of. Excellent. So we're talking a lot about monitoring, and as Andrew mentioned, with the basically same agent, same backend, you can also start to do security use cases. And so we wanted to really focus in now on securing the cloud and what's available there. How did we come together as IBM and Sysdig to also make this happen and to offer an effective service for you? Let me start here once again with the challenges, right? And this is again comparing any world, whether it's cloud or our previous world, right? Always when we think about security challenges in these app and IT environments, one, we always want to be on top of software vulnerabilities, right? If there's something there that's known that there's a fix for, it's better to fix it before going to production to avoid that being, a point of compromise for you or your business. Configurations and permissions, right? Making sure that people have the right access and nothing more. That apps and things and infrastructure being spun up in the right way. That is important. Being able to detect in a running environment when there is suspicious activity or threats, right? Again, another very important aspect to securing any environment. And then last but not least, so many, really every business now has some level of compliance mandate that typically we need to meet, and put the right controls in place to do things like, get reports and report back to the business, here's what we've done, and yes, we're testing it. So all these things exist in the same way in any environment, especially in the cloud. And again, starts to be a little bit more complicated when we're talking about a much more dynamic environment. But we've come together to help solve these kinds of challenges in your cloud environment with containers and Kubernetes as well. And that brings us to Sysdig Secure on IBM Cloud. Andrew, you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, for sure. So, right now this is available today as an additional plan level in this IBM Cloud Monitoring System. Sysdig Secure, again, built on the same data sources as Sysdig Monitor. The tooling just opens up these additional insights and observations, dashboarding, etc. So it has a huge number of capabilities. That view of risk, right? You can flag misconfigurations in your software deployment, find vulnerabilities. Those vulnerabilities get updated ongoing, right? So you, the user of the tool, don't have to take action. So you think back to the end of last year when we had that excitement around Log4j, and so many customers came to us like, do you have, does this impact us? And you're like, guys, you're not even using Java. Like how, but surprisingly, even if you weren't using Java directly, maybe deep under the covers, one of those software components in one of your containers had some Java stuff, and you actually did have a little bit tiny of a risk. So Sysdig rolled out detection of the Log4j stuff as part of Sysdig Secure very early into that sort of cycle, so that you suddenly, if you were using this, you got insight into these are the containers, here's how to go take action to fix things, right? There's also this aspect of looking at the activity across containers. There's a network visibility view that's very powerful to let you see which components inside of your Kubernetes cluster are communicating, right? There's compliance in terms of there are policies where you could say, I'm trying to meet this certification, help me do that, flag things that are going to be audit problems, right? Help me deliver on my commitment to meet these security standards. When am I going to have to go to address? Where are my problems? Alerting, obviously, capturing data for forensics, especially with that threat of containers being short-lived, right? A very advanced attacker, right? Somebody who's going to be out there, they're going to go, excellent, I've got a foothold in this, but the first thing I'm going to try to do is create a new container to containerize my attack, which will be ephemeral, right? That container is going to spin up, do a small bit of work for a couple of seconds and disappear. A normal system would not see that. It would just be like a container existed, and then it went away, and we threw everything away, and you don't have evidence of that attack. With Sysdig Secure, you can make configurations to say, when this kind of thing happens, go track that. If a terminal shell is opened, go capture all the commands made in that terminal shell and keep those aside and figure what's going on. So now you can start doing your forensics. It's a really great tool, and it's really nice because it hits all those points where it's like helps you be secure. It in your development cycle, it helps you be secure at runtime. It also helps you do audit reports to figure out, I have to figure out, how do I answer the audit team that's asking me these questions, and I can generate those reports. Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's dive in a little bit to exactly those use cases that you're talking about, right? And really, as Andrew was saying, starts from the time you're building your containers, you're then running them and then being able to respond. And I think, obviously these days, as we're putting more and more in containers, image scanning really becomes table stakes, right? But what that means is we're pulling in information to know, okay, these things that are in this container, all the packages, which of these might put me at risk and something I need to update. And a lot of folks are starting to pull that back into even their CI/CD tooling, things like Jenkins and so on, to have that information right there as it's moving through the pipeline before it hits the registry. And so these capabilities for doing that basically as the build is happening, but also for monitoring that in your running environment. Yesterday, everything with my container looked great, or at least I was comfortable with it. Today, maybe Log4j or whatever, some new thing shows up. It's a new vulnerability. And I want to know, right, what that looks like. And so we can even reflect to you these containers, which are now in this environment, specifically in this, again, using that context, in this Kubernetes cluster, this namespace, maybe I'm the Java service owner. I can see, oh yeah, today there were some additional things that essentially put me at risk, and I need to go fix those. So once we're up and going, in terms of, once we've built our containers, we're going to run them somewhere. And so there's this idea, which Andrew spoke about kind of checking against our environment to make sure we're following best practices. The CIS, or Center for Internet Security, has a series of benchmarks. You can run these against the environment and see how am I doing. Is my Kubernetes environment the way it should be, or Docker or whatnot, right? And we've also implemented other checks. Basically, we've taken book, chapter, and verse of some of these standards and looked at, okay, to meet this level of the spirit of this compliance standard, you can do these things, right? And then be able to give you a report of things that are green and things that are red, and give you remediation tips on how to get there. And the idea here is around Kubernetes, et cetera, right? Get yourself set up, the environment itself, for success. Now we're running our containers. We want to watch, right? Again, our founder, Loris, likes to use a security camera analogy, right? These are the things that are built on that Falco open source project, right? Essentially, again, that system call level, like we're watching, right? And when something triggers, we can actually record around that and give you insight and information about that event and that incident, right? And so it's that detection built on Falco rules that you can put into policies in what we call the Sysdig Secure product, which we're talking about here. And to be able to have those things dialed in for your environment, to trigger alerts, to trigger, capturing the right information, even taking action in some cases, right? You can have, hey, when this happens, kill that container. Let's stop the immediate threat. And, Kubernetes will spin one up elsewhere, right? Hopefully that's, the attacker's not following you around as it goes on a different node, maybe, that's orchestrated. And so a lot of powerful things you can do here with that kind of detection, that kind of security camera approach. And then we're capturing these activity audits. You can go further and take these syscall captures. And again, the idea is, even in the example like Andrew talked about, a container, somebody spins it up for a very short amount of time. And a lot of containers don't run for very long, 5 minutes or less. If your visibility solution is giving you a readout every minute, you might miss entirely a whole set of things happening. So you need that real time, you need to capture it, you need to save it, right? And the activity audit's a really great feature that you can jump back in time and sort of see, what were the commands that were issued, what was happening on the network, what was happening with files, and so on. So it all becomes very important to response. So again, securing the build, protecting runtime, and being able to effectively respond. And this is what Sysdig Secure on IBM Cloud can help bring you.
Yeah, I will say, and you don't have to go back, but I will say that there's a lot of tools that do these things individually. Like, there's not necessarily a lot of new ground being broken here. But what's really cool is, again, one agent. You're getting your monitoring information, you're getting your security information from the same place, and all the capabilities that Sysdig Secure bring to the table as a single package is pretty impressive in terms of one tool that does a lot of stuff and gives you a single way of doing things. It's very...
It aligns perfectly with this first orange box bullet here, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
No, all yours, Eric.
No, yeah, I think that's right. It's the pulling together of all of those aspects, as you mentioned, right? That becomes really, really important and different, right? Because when I can see things that arise from maybe a performance perspective, and also check into that from the security side and detections, right? There's a lot of power that comes with that broad set of capabilities and visibility, right? I think at the end of the day too, right, a part of what we're trying to do, and in a minute we're going to tell you how to go see the demo sessions that we've also got on hand for the event. The ability to have things bubbled up that really require your attention, right? So the prioritization, giving you a bit of, hey, these are the things that are firing in your environment right now. You should probably take a look at those things first, right? And just try to give you that level of insight, some consolidation, so that you're not running crazy trying to track down a lot of false positives, but rather focus on really what matters. We already talked about the open standards part, right, Andrew, where a lot of what we're doing here, where there is either something that Sysdig has done open source or in the industry, let's use it. It makes a whole lot of sense. We get the community contributing. We inherit good things from the community who are running a wealth of different environments, saying, you know, this would be a great rule for detecting these things that are now kind of becoming common in the industry as a threat, right? So that's one benefit, of course, of based on open standards.
Yeah, no, IBM is huge on open standards, and you know, openness is great. And you know, in cloud, it's absolutely true. You know, running those services that do provide things like Sysdig Secure, it's not easy. Like, there's a lot of interesting challenges there. So you're not giving the farm away to everybody by running in the open that way. You're really upping everybody's game to work at a higher level and to be more secure, to deliver better software, which is, you know, at the heart of it. What we're all trying to do is do a better job of delivering quality software, so that you know, things like you can trust your banking, you know, that your healthcare is going to work, you know, that you know, transport is going to happen, that food's going to arrive, all those things. Like, it's one of the things that IBM does a great job is a little bit of trying to make the world a better place. And you know, this is a little bit of a contribution towards that, where it's like we're trying to make software better, so that, you know, we can all live a better life.
Well said. All right, thanks for that. And then let's close out here. We do want to invite you to learn more, see it in action. So there are 2 sessions also recorded that you will be able to attend and watch: the demo of the monitoring side, IBM Cloud Monitoring, the demo of Sysdig Secure. So I encourage you to go seek those out and have a look at those as sort of the step 2 in this process of understanding the things that you can do to secure your workloads in the cloud. You can also learn more about both of us, right? Sysdig.com/IBM, or the link here, IBM.com, that you can learn more about the cloud monitoring solution. You can even just get started, right, Andrew? Nothing better than just going and signing up, start an account. Yeah. And there is some ways to get started with these solutions, basically for free for a time. And if you're at that point, you can go to the catalog, and that's kind of why I put that image there on the right-hand side. Go to observability, essentially, and you'll find what the IBM and Sysdig solution right there to get started.
Well, this was awesome, Eric. It was really great to present with you, and I hope that people do attend the demo sessions. I know I'm recording 1 or 2 of them, so you may see us again, our happy faces. But a lot of great power in these tools, and you know, from my own personal experience, as well as the teams I work with, you know, very happy to work with this tooling, and you know, it's been a really great addition to the IBM Cloud. Absolutely,
great partnership, and we're just going for it, right? We're doing more and more to make it much more effective and to tackle today's latest and greatest challenges, right? So, with that, we'll wrap up. Thanks everyone for attending the session, and again, if you need anything, you know how to get in touch with us.
Excellent, thank you.